Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Look, if you're a parent, a teacher, or honestly, just an adult paying attention to the world right now, you're probably feeling it, right? That collective, heavy anxiety about teens, smartphones, and screen time. It is everywhere. We see the headlines, we feel the worry, and we all know the digital landscape our kids are navigating is just changing way faster than we can keep up. Well, in This Explainer, we're going to dive into some really groundbreaking research that totally flips the script on everything we thought we knew about keeping kids safe online. So get ready, because we are moving from a mindset of strict restriction to a future of true empowerment. So I want you to take a second and really ask yourself, are we thinking about digital child safety all wrong? Because right now, our default response to online danger is, well, it's highly reactive. We ban phones in schools, we put down these rigid screen time limits, and we desperately try to install top-down content blockers. But is this reactive mindset actually solving the problem? Or are we just slapping a Band-Aid on a rapidly evolving ecosystem that, let's be honest, our kids already know how to navigate better than we do? Okay, let's dive right into this paradigm shift. The old way of thinking was basically all about building a digital cage. It relied heavily on restrictions, outright bans, and super strict parental controls. But the new way, and this is the approach supported by leading global researchers, is all about building dynamic guardrails. Guardrails provide flexible boundaries. They mitigate harm while still preserving a child's opportunity for exploration, connection, and, actual learning. We're moving from locking kids out to designing spaces that empower them safely. This whole forward-thinking vibe actually gets to the core of a Landmark collaborative report. It was published by the TUM think tank, the Berkman Klein Center for Internet and Society at Harvard University, and the University of Zurich. The report basically challenges us to stop viewing digital safety as this frantic, endless game of catch-up. Instead, we need to treat it as a canvas for intentional, proactive design. So, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to hit the digital safety dilemma, explore a new design paradigm, break down the foundations of child well-being, look at 4 technical design approaches, and finally, map out a collaborative digital future. Let's get into it.
Part 1, the digital safety dilemma, navigating modern risks.
We are dealing with an incredibly complex, fragmented reality here. The digital environment absolutely enriches kids' lives, for sure, but the pace of innovation is just blistering. Research and regulation literally can't respond in time. Back in the early days of the internet, we focused super heavily on contact risks, the classic stranger danger. But today, the risks are often peer-to-peer. We're talking cyberbullying, digital dating abuse, and conduct risks. Plus, we have the totally emergent challenges of generative AI. AI offers amazing personalized learning, but it also brings deepfakes and disinformation to the table. And maybe most importantly, we are seeing how these online harms have serious, cascading offline impacts on a child's physical and mental health. But here's a crucial insight from the report. Rigid restrictions can actually trigger the forbidden fruit effect. It's a classic parenting trope, right? Like telling a toddler not to push the big red button. When we just issue strict warnings and bans, we often accidentally dial up a child's curiosity in the prohibited content, which makes those rigid rules completely counterproductive. So as strict bans actually backfire, what do? That brings us to part 2, a new design paradigm, a proactive approach. The researchers highlight this massive design opportunity. It's about treating child safety not as some annoying constraint, but as a proactive, creative process embedded right into the architecture of the digital tech itself. Basically, safety shouldn't be a pesky pop-up or a clunky add-on parental control app. It should be an inherent built-in feature of the ecosystem. We need to be designing platforms from the ground up with the clear intention of prioritizing children's well-being, rather than trying to awkwardly retrofit safety onto platforms that were built purely for adult engagement. Moving on to part 3, foundations of child well-being, rights and foundations. If we are going to build this entirely new digital architecture, it has to be firmly rooted in children's rights. The report draws heavily on frameworks like the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, which emphasizes not just protection, but also participation and provision of access. And central to all of that is child agency, which is the capacity of children to make decisions and actually take action toward their own well-being. And here's what's truly fascinating. Research shows kids are highly aware of their agency. They actively want involvement in managing their digital safety. They don't want to just be passive subjects of our rules. They want to be co-creators of their digital guidelines. Supporting this agency, actually equipping them with the skills to identify risk and make smart choices themselves, is absolutely crucial for their long-term resilience. Now, as we wrap our heads around these pretty heavy, conceptual, academic ideas about agency and rights, the real question becomes, how do we actually build the thing? How do we take these foundations and turn them into code, interfaces, and actual tools on a smartphone? Well, that is exactly where we're heading next.
Part 4. 4 Technical Design Approaches. Actionable Solutions.
These are essentially the 4 pillars of our new dynamic guardrails. 1. Fostering trust. 2. Help-seeking and reporting. 3. On-device approaches. And 4. Educational and UI design. Let's break down exactly how each of these technical approaches completely reshapes the digital experience for our kids. Okay, approach 1 is all about fostering trust. We really need to myth-bust the idea that strict, secret parental surveillance software actually works. The report advocates for a total shift from top-down parental control to what they call collaborative empowerment. This means technology should actually be designed to encourage joint decision-making between parents and kids. Because when tools are transparent and kids actually understand why certain boundaries exist, it fosters mutual trust, rather than creating this exhausting cat-and-mouse game of evading restrictions. Approach 2 tackles help-seeking and reporting. The tough reality here is that when kids face online exploitation or cyberbullying, they are usually way too scared or ashamed to confide in adults. Technology has to be designed to lower these barriers. Think of it kind of like a digital panic button, an intuitive, anonymous reporting tool, and digital peer support network embedded directly into the apps they use every day. The design should actively empower and gently nudge children to safely and confidentially report harms the very second they feel uncomfortable. Approach 3 is just incredibly innovative. On-device interventions. This is all about balance. We want our kids' smartphones to detect and interrupt risky conduct or contact in real time, right when it's happening. But, and this is a massive but, we cannot create an invasive, cloud-based surveillance state to do it. The solution is designing interventions that act locally, right on the device itself. This allows for immediate risk mitigation while strictly preserving the child's privacy and personal data. The 4th and final approach brings together educational methods and user interface design. We can use behavioral design, think subtle nudges, clear safety signals, and helpful friction points within an app's interface, to actually prompt critical thinking. These interfaces should be age-appropriate and tailored to diverse children to help build up their digital maturity. The goal isn't just to block the bad stuff. It's to use the interface itself to educate the child, build their resilience, and teach them how to spot risks on their own. Which brings us to part 5, a collaborative digital future, shared responsibility. Look, building these dynamic guardrails isn't a solo mission. It requires shared responsibility across an entire ecosystem. Technology companies have to embrace accountability and build safety by design. Parents and caregivers need to provide open mediation, not just endless surveillance. Educators are vital for building kids' digital and emotional skills. Policymakers have to create child-centered governance frameworks. And crucially, children themselves must be given participation rights to actually help co-design the very tools they'll be using. And this brilliantly illustrates why getting this right is so critical. To quote the report directly, children's digital and non-digital lives are deeply intertwined, and harms in one domain can have cascading effects in the other. You just can't separate the phone from the child anymore. Getting this architecture right isn't just a tech issue, it is a fundamental public health and child well-being issue. So, I want to leave you with a question to really chew on. How will you help design a digital world where kids don't just survive, but actually thrive? Whether you're a parent tweaking the rules at home, a developer building the next big app, or a teacher fostering digital maturity in the classroom, we all have a role to play in this massive shift from restriction to empowerment. I highly encourage you to seek out the full Frontiers and Digital Child Safety report from TUM, Harvard, and the University of Zurich to explore all of this deeper. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, let's get to work building a better digital future for our kids.